what we're going to do in this video is something like you can see on the left here, just a menu with clickable buttons that have highlighted the active page. So to get started, what we've got is a just auto-baked 3 controller and 3 table templates, and now we just start fleshing this out. So the first thing we want to do is just make our index page have a side column. So I'm just going to copy some of the boilerplate code to here, and we're going to remove, actually we might remove all of the side nav and just replace it with an element that's going to be in a folder called side nav. So that's there. Now we go down to our tags templates and pop this in, and actually we just need to, before we do that, let's go and paste that, in an element, a new folder called nav, and create a side nav.php file, and we'll just paste this in temporarily here. Alright, going back to our articles index view, we just need to grab the bit of code that we've inserted, put into tags here, and then add our closing tags, and double check that I've done the same. I haven't on our articles index view. And now let's go to our users index view and insert that there. So now if we go and have a look, we currently have some failing index variables because we've got some actions in here that require so we can, right, so now if we go to the different, so next thing that we need to do is make this into 3 different links that link all these different controllers. So we can create a links array. We can do this in another spot, but just doing it here is easy. We create, firstly we want to create an array with controller, and we'll start with the articles controller. Action is the index view, and then we want to give the list articles, and then we just copy down tags and users controller. Now when you see this underscore underscore and open brackets, it means that if you're using any internationalization tools, it will scan through and find all of these and then allow you to make translations. So we want to maintain that translation ability. So I'm going to wrap all these in my code in this to make sure that CakePHP will be able to translate those strings if we decide to publish this in. Now before we do that, we need to put a for each loop in. So we're going to loop through the links as a link, and then close that. And now we can use this link and use name. Here we want to replace it with link URL, and having a look again, it should, if we haven't made mistakes, now have the ability to go to each different page. Now the next step we want to implement is, what we'd like to do is we'd like to add into this here, we want to make sure that our classes have an active, so we want to have this active when it's highlighted. So when we're on that controller, we want the users one to say active. So how do we do that? Well, one way of doing it is by setting an options array, and then so by default we want our classes to be, well, we want side nav item as one option for our classes, and we could do, you know, class 1 and class 2, sort of like this. So we can say, we can specify some default classes. Then we want to say, we want to do some logic here to say if so in pseudocoders, if is on page, and then we want to say the classes would be array, merge, whatever in classes now, and another array with active in it. And then when we get to here, we can either merge, so maybe create something like this. So the options we might and we could put something into the options array here, and then once we've got everything that we want right, we can say options equals whatever's currently in options plus our classes, or a class array, with joining using a space the classes together there. And then once that's done, we have the ability now, let's say go true, Let's just make it always true. And now we can just say, okay, let's install a new options array with what we want there. So we can go have a look and inspect, and notice there that we've now got our classes, side nav, class 1, class 2, and at the moment it's all three are active. Now let's work on making just the one that's active, the active one. Okay, to do that we can go into our controller, go src, controller, app controller. Now you could do this on any one of your controllers, but this makes it global. Go into your controller and specify a before filter function, and do this so that just in case if there's anything in parent, possibly not needed, but do it anyway. And now we want to set, so we want to go this set. Now there's a couple of ways to do it. To make it less verbose, we can just go, we're going to say the action equals string to lower, and this request get param, we want the action, and now we want to do the same with controller, and then do a set with compact, and want action and controller pass through to every single view. So now that we've done that, let's just reload the page and have a look. If we click on this arrow and look at our variables now, we'll see that we now have lowercase action and controller. And now we need to reference that in our side nav. So we can say, so everything's specified as lowercase. So we can then say if action is, we might need to move this into the for each loop. I think we're going to need to move all this into the for each loop and move that there, and we might make that link URL. Now if the action equals link URL action, and let's just copy that again, and controller, maybe just hold Alt down in VS Code and click, and that's there. So if the action equals the action and the controller equals the controller, make sure you merge these classes in. Otherwise, don't do that, and just merge the base classes in. So let's now have a look at that. If we just, now we're on the users link, and now we can see that we've got active defined for the users link. Now let's make these really obvious, so let's apply some styling, and the styling is for side nav item. So what we might do is we might just override that, and the way we can do that is go into our template here, and after our CSS we can just say this HTML and CSS, and let's call it styles. So we're going to create our own styles CSS file, so new file, and we're now looking for .nav item. Now that seems to, for some reason, be unhappy. Okay, so we just need to start specifying some rule sets. Now, just so I don't have to do this off the top of my head, I'm just going to look at some other one. So I want to say, let's apply some padding, and the width should take up 100% of its parent element, and display in inline block to get it to do that, and then a border radius of 5 pixels. And then we want side nav item dot active, and background color, let's make it pink. Now, I don't know how this is going to go, but that's good enough. So there we have our side nav working. So that is all you need to do. Let's have a look at it again just for a review. So that's all you need to do in order to get this sort of active class added to any one of your links using this. You could probably do this a lot cleaner in different ways, but that is as good as I can do for the time being. So I hope that is helpful to someone.